right?
Yes.
That's chapter 3 or chapter?
Chapter 3. Jivatma.
Before I go into it, to simplify it, y'all have any questions?
Haven't read it yet. Yeah, we have it. This is when you start thinking very word.
Starting through chapter 3, or it starts at a specific place in chapter 3 where it does that?
I feel like 3, 4, 5. Those chapters, so chapter 5. Nice big chunk.
We covered
Chapter 2 last time.
how thoughts transmit themselves. That's what, are you have questions?
Yes. I don't have questions yet.
Okay, so, I mean, we could just go through this real quick then. What I did, I created this chart. It's rough, so so you can see. And the embodied consciousness is really the constitution of man. And it gives you this, but in this, it focuses in on the energy flow in the Serpent Power book. And anytime they talk about energy to a certain level, they're talking about consciousness. Energy being driven by consciousness. In this case, it's the embodied consciousness. So if we look at this chart, let's look at this chart at, see if I can do this. See if I can make this thing work. If we look at this chart, what I did here, I put together the involutional, the involution of the soul, and the evolution of the soul, per se. So what I'm saying here is that as the soul involves itself, in order to position itself, in order to take on a consciousness. Remember, the soul is really not, the soul is above consciousness. So when the soul is manifested from the spirit, the soul have this all awareness about itself. So it's working on a very, very high level of awareness and intelligence. So, but the soul has directives from the from the spirit to involve itself in order to go through a series of incarnations, right? So therefore it must position itself in a basic state of consciousness. So what does the soul do? And I give each step, I just give a point and we can go through it. The soul, after being manifested from spirit, issues a creative soundless sound, because this is what this book talks about. Creative soundless sound that creates an indestructible auric body of substance for itself to move through involution to evolution. And the soul has this auric body It's practically indestructible. And the auric body we have take us through many, many lifetimes, you know. So then the soul, and that's at the crown level of the chakras. Remember, the chakras are vortex points of power and consciousness, right? So then at the Christ level, the soul uses Cheta, or the universal mind substance, to formulate a superconscious state of mind in order to operate through the auric body of substance it created for itself. In doing this, the soul uses a supraconscious mind to call on and manipulate the energy patterns radiated from the sun, from the earth, sun, and moon as the Tantric rays. It then manipulates the Shakti Tantric power and pushes it down through Sushumna Brahmic line of force within the auric body of substance. So it created this auric body of substance, and then it finds that silver lining, which is really the Brahmanati, right? That's within Sushumna, of that mass of energy. Now you got to understand this, that it doesn't matter what. That's an Amber alert.
Yeah, I've gone here, I don't know, measuring. Oh, sorry.
So anything you have in nature have these points. It has, anything in creation is connected to the nadis. It has nadis, it has a chakra, it has all this stuff. So when the soul created this auric substance, it had to create it within the mind belts of the universe. So it has those things, because the mind belt of the universe have nadis, chakras, Tantric rays. It has all this already. All right? Yeah.
So like on the interplanetary level, or if, say, one of us were to leave this solar system and go to another, then the soul would take those Tantric rays from that particular planet and sun and use that to, I guess, to change, or the aura would change?
Say what you said again now?
Like, so the soul takes the Tantric rays from this earth, from our sun, and from the moon, to build our current auras. But if we were to leave this solar system, would we then be under the influence of that particular solar system's Tantric rays? Therefore, our auras would change, or our soul?
Eventually, it may change when you're feeding and sustaining it. But remember now, you're talking about a great cosmic God, the Earth, and the sun and the moon. It stretches, its influence is stretched out throughout the galaxy. So, so it doesn't, and on multiple levels of existence. You understand? So, and then we don't know, we don't really understand. I mean, our present sun may have 21 positions or 21,000 positions within this galaxy. I mean, we only see one aspect of it. But in actuality, it may have, it may be manifested 21 to 21,000 times throughout this galaxy, experiencing life or going through a series of time cycles on multiple existence. And I mean, and each one of those existence might be physical, astral, etheric. I'm not saying they might be different frequencies of existence. It may be another physical sun with the same physical consciousness and mental consciousness, etheric consciousness, 21,000 times throughout this galaxy. So we don't know, but I mean, their influence stretch out through this whole galaxy, you know. So, and I think Dr. King explained that to us one time too. I think he stated something like that as well. So no, they're not limited to this space and some other planet or some other Mahabindu had to take their place. No, I don't. No, that's not the case. You know. Okay, so when the soul moves to the throat region, the soul then uses the cosmic element akasa, or etheric sound, and place and space to create the main carrying agent for the manipulated Shaktic consciousness that's being pushed down through Sushumna. Akasa is a power that molds and shapes all mental energies and vital energies unimpeded in a pure vacuum of operation to whatever the soul will it to be. Okay? When it moves to the fourth region, the heart center, the Shaktic consciousness is pushed down through the inner walls of Sushumna at the heart chakra region, where the meaning of the will takes on layers of etheric and subtle movement, control the wave of the Shaktic consciousness. The Shakti to the solar plexus center, the Shaktic consciousness being pushed down through Sushumna's Brahmic Nati, moves into the Manipura region, and it is coded with the knowledge and power of energy transference, energy modification, energy transmutation, and of subtle and gross energy components in order to sustain the Shaktic consciousness. This is where the Shaktic consciousness is take on the knowledge and experience of expansion and heat transference from a minute level to an extreme level. Okay, so you remember all those charts I gave you all talking about the different energy levels of the chakra? This is where this knowledge comes into play, and you can see it inside the Embodied Consciousness chapter, okay? Then the Shaktic consciousness moved to the sixth level, at the sex level. Then the Shaktic consciousness is pushed even further down through Sushumna to the sex region of the Brahmanati, which is the inner flow of energy and space within Sushumna. It is here where the Shaktic consciousness is coded with the power of physical formlessness in solid manifested state, liquid manifested state, a vapor or gaseous manifested state of existence. This is where the Shaktic consciousness takes on the knowledge and experience of expansion and cohesion with any form of energy or material. Now, the nature finer forces really go into this as well. Going down to the base chakra, the Shaktic consciousness takes on its final involutional stage where it falls into a wave of consciousness that codes it with the knowledge and experience of taking on a basic state of mind. The Shaktic consciousness is wrapped in a vibrational wave of gaseous envelope with isolated barriers of heated areas and line force and liquid energies that has the ability to move through and by all manifested material in order to mold it and house it into solid manifested states of existence. The whole Shaktic consciousness becomes the not whole Shaktic consciousness. And what I was trying to explain in here, because they really go into it in deep here, but is wrapped in Sanskrit. is heavily wrapped in Sanskrit terminology, and it is here where the what they call it, the Ayurveda, get their information from. It's from the embodied consciousness. They really go into detail here, and that's where it really came from, and the mantra. So you'll see that as we move forward. Then we switch. Then the evolutional part began to happen, right? And that was all involution. What? So we'll read the evolution now. One of y'all want to read it? Can you see it?
The stream of Shakti consciousness. The soul pushed down to the Muladhara chakra moves into the 3.5 energy configuration, which places it into a state of dormancy. Over 90% of the Shakti power becomes dormant, and the remaining power is split into a negative flow of power and a positive flow of power. This split flow of power moves forward and creates the Nadi system. The dormant Shakti power blocks the passage of Sushumna and is called Kundalini. This vehicle of consciousness, Kundalini, releases a sound that carries the positive and negative Nadis throughout the auric structure.
Okay, so everybody understand that, right?
Is that just for us? Meaning, at this state of evolution,
Yeah.
90% of our Kundalini is dormant?
Yeah. Yeah. Over 90%. Yeah.
But other, I know Master Darius is talking about other humanoids with similar evolution levels as us, but they don't have most of their Kundalini dormant.
No, we're one of the lowest in the galaxy. So. In the wrong way, number one.
Yeah. That's at the Muladhara, not the center. Number 2, the Nadis move up from the base chakra carrying the divided Shakti consciousness with all its previous power and knowledge collected from its fall placed within it. Nadis move this chakra region, and from here it uses the existing Dhyana prana to expand basic self-consciousness as conscious mind, unconscious mind, and subconscious mind. So the plexus number 3. At the Manipura level, the nadis intersect and utilize the tremendous cosmic energies from the sun and cosmic etheric elements from the universal supply to manipulate all forms of energies and matter to feed, sustain, and build life. Now the nadis bodies have formed the basic consciousness and have tapped into transforming energies to mold and shape all forms of energies and matter. So now moves to the fourth chakra, where it puts this power into operation. At this level, the creative nadis activates the inner key sounds.
Yeah, I meant to say activates, yeah.
Activates the inner key sounds of the soul to mold and shape the energies and etheric matter into bodies of expression for the soul. Therefore, this becomes the seat of soul to express itself light into light.
You understand that?
So is that what they mean by when you raise Kundalini to the heart? The Kundalini is raised to the heart, it sings the song of the soul, is that what it means?
Yeah, the soul operates from the heart chakra. It becomes, that's where it lodges the consciousness in the sex center, but it sets at the heart chakra because the heart chakra is what? What do they tell us the heart chakra is? Is where the vowels at is, right? Or the consonants?
Oh, that makes sense.
We're gonna go in here and we're gonna see it.
Yeah, that's why, when you do,
You see the chart in there?
it says the heart expression, when you start doing it, your name.
What page the chart is on? Anyone knows? Is it 115 or
141?
141?
Oh, no, it's right there, I don't have it.
Yeah.
Is that the right chart?
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, it's where the consonants are.
And the vowels?
No, at the heart chakra, the consonants are. So the consonants are like the foundations, like the key. You know.
Yes, when you do numerology, it's like the heart expression.
Yeah.
Vowels and-
And that's the seat of the soul.
So you say, like, the bulk of Kundalini is in the heart, but the seat of her heart is in the sex. You say the bulk of the soul.
The boat of the Kundalini is at the base, dormant. Then the seat of the consciousness is at the sex center, and then the soul, the seat of the soul is at the heart. Okay, that was, remember, the heart was the original what?
Original base.
The very
It was the
last-
original base.
it was originally-
Okay.
Number 5, throat center. When the nadis reach this level, it forms the outer shell of the usher for the subtle vehicles of expression to manifest the power of the soul through a karmic scale of purification. This karmic scale of purification is done on the levels of psycho-spiritual, mental, emotional, etheric, subtle, pranic, astral, and physical. Right, because it also has the same purification.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, at the Christ chakra. At this level, all the nadic pathways terminate into 2 flows of subtle energy pathways, and the inner 2 petals of the ajna, subtle pathways at the inner 2 petals of the ajna Christ chakra. From this interface, the soul uses this chakra consciousness as the command center, and all manas senses are developed, manipulated, and used from this point.
Okay, so that's basically it. I mean, to break it down, if you can understand that pattern, like I said, it's a rough draft, there's some mistakes in there, grammar mistakes, but essentially it's telling you it's correct in what it's telling you. And if you If you could follow this pattern, use this as a key to reading this chapter here. In fact, this chapter and the next chapter, the chapter on mantra, this is the key to understanding it. Because you'll see that's the flow that they're talking about. Of course, they go into it in great detail and very elaborate, I think even on the mantra side. But essentially, this is what it's saying. At the base level, they go into they go over the gonads. You know what the gonads is, right? The quality of mind. The quality of mind energy, which is tamas, rajas, and sattvic, right? They go into that, and then they go up and talk about nature itself and how these forces at the different level, each force brings on a different power. Brings on a different energy level that place pressure on the Gnostic flow within the aura. Now, you're not going to see them say aura in here. They're going to use a different terminology for aura, right? And but essentially, you'll hear them. You'll hear them say everything what I said here. They'll say, but they're going to use a lot of Sanskrit words in order to say it. Or he's going to use a lot of Sanskrit words in order to say it. He's even going to use the mantras, certain mantras, mantra terminology. So if you want to read through it, and then next week we can, if you want to dissect it, we can go into it and dissect it next week. But
So, is it the embodied plus mantra?
no, just do the embodied.
Okay.
I just tried to make it simple so you can understand it. It's not that many pages, is it? Oh, it is a lot of pages. It is a lot of pages, huh?
The embodied one is,
The mantra 5 and 6, 4 and 5 are
50 to 4983.
It's 30 pages, right?
embodied. That's big.
33 pages.
The mantras are good fun.
That's the lotus.
Yeah, that one's a good week.
It's just like every next chapter gets bigger.
The mantra is only 20 pages. It's only 20. It's only 20 pages.
The flowers are nice. And the basins are really, that's nice too. Forgetting that I'm printing it out, and I'm like, oh, it's part of that page. There's nothing there.
That far.
Yeah.
So the centers of the lotus is 78 pages. 78 pages. All right.
It's gonna take a couple.
So y'all have any questions? Since y'all didn't read it, y'all don't have them.
Yeah,
But we went over this 100 times, though.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's why it's like, oh, good, this is a review. Is there any questions online? Or is there anyone?
There's just 4 people.
Oh, good, good. You know that last week when we spoke here, remember how we were talking about the common misconception that karma, remember, is you deserve it, the pain and suffering? Remember we talked about that last week?
Big
People
vague.
are like, oh, well, you deserve that,
Mm-hmm.
talking about like when they get karma.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, I have a friend of mine who, this is crazy, but they actually go to therapy, and the therapist actually made that comment to them.
That what?
Well, you draw this, you do this to upon yourself, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and she actually used the word karma, which is very strange for therapists to do, so I'm a little bit, not really sensing her qualifications, but, she sat there and said, yeah, well, this is your karma, you drew this to yourself. And my friend was like livid, and then when she called me to tell me what happened, I explained to her, you know, like what we discussed,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, you see, that makes a lot more sense. You know, because it was like a 20-30 minute conversation. And she goes, oh, that makes a lot more sense. Of course, now that makes sense, of course. But like what she was saying, it's kind of like as if I deserved it. So like I was explaining to her, like, you know, she was, I never thought about it that way. I'm like, no, I know it's very complicated to think about it that way. It is and it is, you know. But so she was actually determined to continue to go to therapy because of the comment that the therapist made.
She thought it was a negative comment.
Yeah,
Comment.
yeah.
I had a question about the type of nomenclature that cosmic beings use. So I was listening to, there was a transmission where the master theorist was talking about the dark forces. And, you know, while he was talking, they kept trying to attack Dr. King and shut down the transmission, but they were able to get through it properly. So when they were closing the transmission, when they usually go through the routine, you know, they were saying, you know, what they were checking Dr. King's temperature, and they said 98 mean 6. So I interpreted that to be point, like we see 98.6 point mean, or when they're talking about decimals, they use the term neem. But then there are other times where they're talking where they'll say neem multiple times, which isn't really, to us, doesn't make sense, because we're always saying like 98.6, something like that. So I was wondering if, okay, maybe they're not so much talking about, yes, numerical value, but maybe a level of existence. So meaning, if you take like factors of 10, like a base 10 is usually referred to beings on our scale, from like talking about meters or whatever. The size of a being is about on a human scale, like 10 to the base 2, 10 to the base 3, that's talking about maybe like large trees, 10 to the base 4, base 5, you're talking about large mountains, and so on and so forth. And when you get to like the negative, like 10 to the negative 1, you're talking about, you know, the small animals. 10 to the negative 2, talking about like microscopic and cellular level, and 10 to the minus 3, minus 4, whatever you're getting to like the atomic level. So I'm thinking it may be that it's similar to that. Like, meme is referring to on a larger level, not maybe so much numerically as we refer to it, but maybe on a gradient scale of.
I think in one of the newsletters he go into that, and I think also in the Day the Gods Came, he goes into it a little bit too, in the commentary. But I think one of the Cosmic Voices, one of the old Cosmic Voices, or the newsletters, he goes into to try to give some type of interpretation to some of those, and then some of them he said we just don't know. But he does give clarification of some of the units of energy or the categories in which they put them in. So that was your questions about that?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out
What all that meant?
what need means, and because that was the only thing I was kind of, at least we're talking about it numerically, when you're talking about this temperature, I know we would say 98.6, but they said 98.6. So okay, maybe that's a frame of reference I can go off of, but when they use multiple means, I have no idea what that. At least the equivalent would be in our measurement system.
If y'all, when y'all reading this, if you want to highlight some of like the vocabulary that you don't understand, and maybe like, if you send it to me, I can like put a definition to it for you.
You mean not everything is gonna be in the, on the online one that I downloaded?
No, it may not.
Oh, okay.
But when you're reading it and you don't see, and you can't clarify it, if you could just send me an email with the words in it, then I could put a definition to it for you. I was creating a glossary for that, for this. Because they don't really have a glossary in here, huh?
It's kind of, it's an index, but not.
Yeah.
It's not a glossary, isn't it? Yeah.
So
So,
looking at it, it's kind of hard to navigate.
so what I was thinking about, as we move through, we can create a glossary for it, and I will.
Is there any words that you've come across yet that we don't know?
Yeah, but if he doesn't go into it in the footnotes, then from what we've learned so far, I can kind of piece it together.
Yeah.
So I know in my basic means like kind of.
So that's it.